Tūranga waiwai then, tu being the verb, and ranga and waiwai being the adverbs, means a place where you stand, where you're woven into that place. So the best kind of feeling I can think about that is when you're got your feet in the sand and the tide's coming in or the waves are coming in and the sand washes over your feet, and then you start to feel that kind of that there's a little more than just the water. And so there's a whole range of spaces that feel, that touch, the smell, things that you can hear, are all about how you stand and are woven into the earth. I do feel really woven into Wairarapa Moana. My marae's are from Te Whiti and Hiranuarangi, and I feel really at home there. But more than just at home, it's understanding that space is important.
Every single year, all of my whānau and all of our dogs go walk up the farm, hop into the river, and then float down for an hour or two in the river, and then hop out at the other end. So it's a very fun time.
To be on the beach at Lake Ferry, surf casting into the sea, doesn't matter whether you catch anything or not, and just take in that environment is just awesome. And then you get up and the next day it's a rip-roaring southerly and there's big waves crashing in. You know you're in a place which has got some special attributes.
We had a small block of land at the foothills of the Aotearoa. It was there to put some cows during the winter time, but it was highly uneconomic and it took a lot of work, but it was where my father and family were actually happy.
All through my upbringing we would come back here every Christmas. Every end of the year we'd come back here. My grandparents ensured that we kept our relationship with the lake here, with the awa here, with the whenua here, with the stories here, so that we would always know that this was our home.
The reason it came to the Wairarapa is it's a bigger variation than what you get in Wellington.
It is an interconnected network of different ecosystem types working together within a landscape.
Not many other places have all of these different habitats. You know, we've got the lake, we've got sort of dry land, we've got lots of wetlands, and some of those are certain types of wetlands and others aren't.
Wetlands that are highly estuarine, we have inland dune systems, we have sand dunes, you know, we have turf communities.
And it just provides places for whole lots of different species.
All these different ecosystem types build us into this beautiful space that is Wairarapa Moana. And then if you go one step more, it's like connected to the aorangis, the rimutakas, the tararuas. Yeah, you're looking at a catchment, you know. We just happen to be the bathtub at the bottom that captures it all.
This is seen as the heart of Wairarapa. And when you do stand right up at the head of the catchment, look down and the lake is there. And even when you're down at the sea, if you look up, you can see the mountains where it starts. This really is the heart of the valley.
As I got older, I noticed how polluted the Ruamhanga River can be at times. I'm very conscious now when I'm swimming about making sure I don't have any water go into my mouth. And as I went to university and was starting to study Wairarapa Moana and the Ruamhanga River, that just became more and more evident to me. Finding out that our moana is super trophic, so one step away from being dead was pretty shocking.
So we have a lot of sediment in the lake and nutrients, and the lake is shallow, and so it gets stirred up, and so water quality or clarity, is poor, and that makes it hard to establish aquatic plants, macrophytes, and those are essential as habitat for native fishes and those sorts of things.
I don't know what's normal at the lake anymore. When I first came here, the lake used to be quite often, in the very dry season, there'd be these extensive mud flats. And there used to be plants you'd find on those mud flats you wouldn't find anywhere else. So my rationale for that was those plants have been there a long time, and that's been the ebb and flow of the lake. But now the lake is controlled by the barrage gates.
Things that my ancestors did and contributed to, I can't sit there and feel bad about it and do nothing. I want to get in there and get involved and be part of making that right and building a better relationship. We interfered, or humans, Europeans, interfered so much with the ecosystem to create what is there now that there is no way to just take our hands off and let it go.
I used to think that if the land can produce all the things that we need, like grass or pine trees or corn, great. But now it's to see some pastures, for me, is a wasteland. And don't get me wrong, I think everyone has a right to make a living. And so if the pasture is a part of sheep and cows, fine. But rather than just having one kind of almost manufacturing line, could we have a multiple, a diverse product line that's on the commercial side, but on the environmental side, can we have biodiversity?
What I found is that the farming community is happy to change, and they show some really good initiative. So we were offering grants to do things which would improve the housekeeping on the dairy farms. At Kaiwaiwai, that area where the wetland is was identified as a poor producing area in terms of their farm, and we had some experts design a constructed wetland, and Vern and his partners looked at that design and they said, no, we can do a better job. And so they redesigned the whole thing. It's probably one of the best constructed wetlands in New Zealand for removing nutrients.
I knew that nutrients leaving the farm is a problem. It was a logical thing to try and intercept some of the water leaving the property and try and treat it. It worked very successfully, better than most people would have said. And the data showed that during the summer we removed all the nitrates, in the winter about half. So this is building up all these things that help the retain what nutrients are on the farm, which we actually want to reuse to grow more grass. But we have a number of other things we're looking at to help that, which is that composting barn and a few other things like that.
The sheep down there are what all of this was, and it was prone to getting some water on it. The people who were grazing were more concerned about getting the water off, and the rest of us looked at the water and thought, that's the future. And so a bunch of people from Ducks Unlimited wandered into work one day and said, we'd like to plant some trees. Where would you like to plant them? Down at Whakaora. And the end result was 130 hectares of not fully restored but well restored wetlands.
So the biggest changes, and Wario, the work that they've done there, getting rid of the willows that you wouldn't have seen, what's called Aotearoa wetland before, but it used to be full of willows, and now you can see, you know, reed land and open stretches of water, which is a really good place for things like the bittern and other species that live there.
A lot of wetlands been restored. And nobody saw how big it was going to be until it was well underway. There's still a lot to do, but it's almost taken care of itself. The worst of the weeds have gone. The pest animals are being brought under control. And as far as anybody can see, the birds are doing well. It's not job done, but it is job started.
A real big part of restoration is being able to sit down and listen to everyone's stories. You know, like their history of being in that place, or their whakapapa, or their mātauranga, or their specific specialist knowledge. I think being a restoration ecologist is being able to take all those pieces and work with all those pieces to create the best outcome for restoration.
When we honour a plant by protecting it, by using it wisely, then we're honouring its whakapapa. And we're trying to say, well, you have value to us because this is your genealogical chart, and we understand the strengths that you bring because of your genealogical chart.
At my place, we've got a little farmlet, I suppose, and where I've gone around and planted plants on our whenua, and it's not so much that I'm doing it there, but there's intentions as to why I'm doing it there. I think it's absolutely amazing how rau and rākau and wai and the marama and, you know, the air and fire all have a play in rongoa. Rongoa has always been a passion of mine. I've got a container, a shipping container, and it's all set up to, you know, to do that practice. But that's, where is it? This here. I can look at that and I know exactly what it's for. It's good for coughs, and I can pick a whole heap of them, boil it and give it to my kids if they've got a cough. Yeah, there's another one. There's a plant just over there. Kupa kupa. It's not native to here, but we know how to use it. So we've got the saying called anybody can make a balm, but not everybody can make a pani. Because you need, and a pani is a Māori balm, because you need that spiritual side in order for it to become a pani. but you also need to understand that spiritual side for it to become a pani. Yeah, so it's understanding that. It's understanding and having karakia and but having not just to have a karakia or a prayer. It's not just to have it. It's understanding that karakia and why you're having it.
And I do a little karakia before we go in, and it's a karakia. Really, it's a whakatauki, which is a proverb to papatūanuku, the earth, and it's just so. Mairi ora e papatūanuku kei konei rā nā tauira moto kai mō tātou iwi nei, ki te ingoa o ihi karaiti a hi tonu atu. Āmeni. Okay, so, and then, you know, and it's a matter of respect and courtesy for the plants, and that's why I like it here. It's just full of that gentleness.
Yeah, the cultural, social, spiritual component of this work is really at the heart, because we're people coming together to care for an ecosystem, and yeah, we're caring for it so that it can also care and support us.
There's so much restoration work that needs doing, and often it needs a champion, and that's either, or a voice, and that's either mana whenua, tangata whenua, or community groups. And they bring with them their passion, and they often know to go and they have their mātauranga that they bring with them, but then they also have their history of growing up in an area, or they have this massive desire to learn and know more, which then ignites other people to come along the journey. So that's why I think community are invaluable to restoration in all its forms. Yeah.
You need to encourage someone else to join you. You need to find what works for them. There's your view of the world, and there's many ways of achieving it, and it's not just your way.
I would really like to see a joint united effort into restoring the Ruamhanga. So bringing everyone along, farmers, private landowners, obviously us and Rangitane, the local iwi, all working together so that they are beautiful, thriving ecosystems once again.
Trust. Trust between people. I've mentioned a hell of a lot about the process of restoration, but one of its foundation stones is trust. Once all the parties can agree and can see that there is benefit, differences in things, they evaporate, and potential conflict doesn't exist.
In the last year, I actually attend the giving back ceremony at the Papawai Marae for the Moana, and that was a very moving, and even though I didn't understand Maori at all, the 2 hours of the different hapu explaining in their own terms and song their loss, it was very moving.
For a long time, we were scared to share our stories because somebody could take your story and just mess with it. And so we didn't want that to happen, and so we wouldn't tell anybody. And so in Featherston, we have a statue out in public of a Māori figure, and it's a bit of a test to see what the public would do with that. We know that the school children who have heard about this man Nuku Peopua, who's the statue of, they love him. They just love him. And so they feel a sense of pride, even though Featherston's a small place. And it was named after a guy named Isaac Featherston said, we should smooth the pillow for a dying race. And he said that in the 1800s. So over 150 years later, sorry, we're still here. We're still proud about who we are. And actually, the people who you might have said smooth the pillow for these guys, they don't want to just smooth a pillow, they want to understand the history of this place, they want to understand their stories. And please, we want to know their histories as well and be a part of all of that coming together.
Would you say you're optimistic for the future of Wairarapa Moana?
Definitely. I feel very optimistic that we'll get to a state where our awa and our moana is thriving, has heaps of native plants around it. We've got people on and around the lake, floating down the river. We're moving in the right direction.
What does 40 years look like to us? And it's about dreaming. And anything's possible. Even in 40 years, anything's possible. 100, 200 years, anything, everything's possible, you know.
It's not overnight, but I definitely have a long-term optimism. And I think that the growing connection of people to their lake will restore it, and it won't become what it was, but it will become something better than it is.
So I think you've got to be optimistic, and you've got to be prepared to take a few knocks.
I think there is quite a more excitement about restoration, around the lake, definitely.
I think that's we've got a positive future with likes of you guys and Hiniati and her future, their future generations coming. I think it's never too late.
For many of us, the national anthem isn't a song, it's a haka. That the emotion you see in a haka, in the way you can express yourself in a haka, is a bit more than a war cry. A haka is also a challenge. And sometimes it's a challenge to the other side to be as good as you can be. Because actually, when we work with you, when we compete with you, we want to compete against the best. Bring your best to this. We know that you're capable of great things.
Awhi mai awhi atu, tātou